Have you ever wondered what keeps family bonds strong as we age? As we reach our later years, it's natural to feel a bit more concerned about maintaining meaningful relationships and ensuring our well-being, especially after turning 70. You're not alone in this. Many people face the same questions as they get older. How do we continue to nurture those vital connections with our children and grandchildren? How do we ensure that our independence, dignity, and happiness remain intact in a society that often places elderly individuals on the sidelines? In this video, we're going to explore the crucial role that financial stability plays in maintaining these bonds and in fostering strong family relationships. You may not realize it, but your financial health can directly impact the way your family interacts with you in your golden years. We'll delve into the often hidden costs of caregiving, why it's important to live within your means without sacrificing happiness, and how to cope with the emotional challenges that naturally arise as we age. Through real-life stories, we'll examine how having a secure financial foundation can make a world of difference in the lives of elderly individuals and their families. You'll hear first-hand accounts of how financial stability can ease the burdens of caregiving, reduce stress on children and grandchildren, and allow older adults to maintain their independence for as long as possible. We'll also share practical advice on how to manage your finances wisely, reduce the financial strain on your loved ones, and keep your autonomy intact as you grow older. These strategies can help ensure you remain in control of your life, your finances, and most importantly, your relationships. Stick with us until the end for actionable tips that could help you or someone you love navigate these challenges more effectively. These strategies can help you achieve peace of mind, strengthen family connections, and live a more fulfilling life as you grow older. You won't want to miss the valuable insights we're about to share that could change the way you think about aging and the relationships that matter most. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Your support really helps me continue to create valuable content, and if you find this video helpful, please like and share it with others who might benefit. If this topic resonates with you, leave a 1 in the comments below. If you think we can improve or if there's something else you'd like to see, feel free to comment 0 so I can continue to improve the content for you. Now, let's dive in. After turning 70, maintaining strong relationships with your children often requires more than just emotional effort. It can also depend on financial stability. There's an old saying that goes, "A lamb with a demon, a crow feeding its mother," which implies that the effort to care for and please one's parents can be a burden if there's little to give in return. We often use this saying to teach our children about the importance of showing respect and care for their elders. But what if you don't have the financial resources to do so? Children who live far away might make the effort to call or visit as a gesture of filial piety. But when parents are facing real challenges, how can they rely on the love and support alone if there's nothing else to offer? From the perspective of adult children, it becomes easier to care for elderly parents when there's financial support available. In many cases, middle-aged adults are already stretched thin with their financial burdens, such as paying off mortgages and saving for their retirement. When parents have the financial means to support themselves, it can alleviate some of the pressure on their children and allow for a more harmonious relationship. For elderly individuals, having money can also lead to more respectful treatment from their children and grandchildren. The simple truth is that financial security often makes family interactions smoother. Take, for example, two neighbors, David and Jack. David's 5-year-old son, during the holiday season, received a generous gift of $200 from his grandfather, while Jack's 4-year-old son was disappointed by the $50 his grandfather gave him. The reason for the disparity is clear. David is a retired teacher with a monthly pension, while Jack works as a farmer, relying mostly on his wife's income to support the family. The difference in financial situations is reflected in how the grandchildren perceive their grandparents' generosity. For the elderly, giving meaningful gifts, like holiday money or treats, can brighten the family's mood, but when they can't afford to contribute, even the youngest family members may feel dissatisfied. There's also the option of relying on family members, like daughters-in-law, to provide care instead of hiring professional caregivers. Some people suggest that instead of paying for a caregiver, elderly parents should offer that money to their daughters-in-law, which could help ease their financial burdens. This, in turn, might encourage the daughters-in-law to be more willing to care for their in-laws. However, this approach depends heavily on the willingness and capacity of the daughters-in-law to provide that care, which may not always be possible or fair. From a broader societal perspective, hiring caregivers for the elderly can benefit the whole family. Professional caregivers offer reliable support, allowing family members to continue with their lives without the constant worry of being overwhelmed by caregiving duties. Caregivers also provide emotional support, strengthening the bonds between generations, and ensuring that elderly individuals maintain their dignity and independence. But this all requires money. When pensions aren't enough to cover the cost of healthcare or caregiving, it becomes essential to have savings or alternative sources of income to make up the difference. Turning 70 is often a significant milestone in a person's life, marking the shift from being physically active and independent to requiring more support and care. A personal example comes from my mother. When she was 60, she loved attending dance classes at the local community center, often outdoing younger participants with her energy and enthusiasm. In the summer, she traveled frequently with friends, exploring scenic spots across the country. No matter how far the walk, she always said, "No problem, I can keep up." But after she turned 70, her health began to change. Simple tasks became more difficult, and she faced frequent visits to doctors and hospitals. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Like many others, her transition from health and activity to needing assistance was not something we could have predicted. For her, the process was smoother because she had planned, both physically and financially. She had a retirement plan, some savings, and an understanding of the reality of aging, which allowed her to maintain a sense of independence and dignity, even when things got difficult. After my mother turned 70, her health started to decline significantly. What began as occasional aches and pains gradually became more frequent issues. Leg pain, persistent coughs, and the occasional cold that seemed to linger longer than it used to. With the rising cost of healthcare, the financial burden of medical expenses became a significant concern. According to recent statistics, life expectancy in the U.S. has risen, with the average age at death increasing from 76.3 years to 77.3 years in 2021. This upward trend in life expectancy is certainly a positive sign, but it's also a reminder that while people are living longer, our health doesn't always keep up with the passing years. The reality is that after 70, we enter a new phase of life, one that requires careful financial planning to maintain our health and well-being. I remember hearing a quote from a comedian that stuck with me: "Having money is essential." The most painful thing isn't when a person dies with money left behind, but when you're still alive and the money is gone. It's a harsh truth. Living a comfortable life in our later years is not just about having good intentions. It takes money to maintain that comfort, whether it's for healthcare, daily living, or simply enjoying life without worry. Healthcare costs are perhaps the most significant expense in our later years. Medical bills, prescriptions, treatments, and even just regular checkups can add up quickly. The unfortunate truth is that after 70, maintaining a sense of confidence in life is often directly tied to having financial resources to fall back on. A writer named Lo Jia once said, "Money is a good thing. It helps you feel secure and confident." For the elderly, this couldn't be truer. Having enough money to cover medical expenses and even hire caregivers, if needed, can help reduce anxiety and provide peace of mind. When both spouses are alive and healthy, it's often the case that one partner cares for the other. But aging can make this long-term caregiving incredibly challenging. The reality that both partners might eventually be bedridden and dependent on others is one of the greatest fears for older couples. I have a neighbor, Mike, who experienced this firsthand. When his father passed away, Mike began caring for his mother, who became bedridden. He calculated the costs carefully and discovered that his mother's monthly living expenses, including medical bills and necessities, added up to more than $5,000. In addition to this, He had to pay $5,500 every month for a caregiver to assist his mother. There were unexpected costs as well. His mother had damaged 2 wheelchairs, and she had accidentally broken numerous dishes. The additional expenses over time amounted to $10,000, while Mike's monthly income was only around $15,000. Adding to this financial pressure, Mike's son, who was in high school at the time, had his educational expenses. To manage all of these costs, Mike had to tap into his savings and make careful decisions about where to cut back. This situation highlights the importance of having financial security as you age. Without savings, many families can quickly become overwhelmed by these types of expenses. One of the key lessons here is the importance of living frugally in your later years. Some may ask, how can you save money when your pension is limited? The truth is, even with a modest income, it's still possible to save money if you approach it with discipline and a long-term mindset. For those with lower incomes, there are options like part-time jobs or finding ways to supplement income through flexible opportunities. For example, many older adults are finding ways to work remotely through online platforms or engage in small gigs like cleaning houses or providing security services. The digital era has created new avenues for earning money that didn't exist before. For people with a more stable income, the strategy should be to live below their means. It's important to plan purchases carefully, shop for deals, and avoid unnecessary expenses like lavish celebrations or expensive hobbies that don't add value. If you start saving when you're between 50 and 60, you can often set aside a significant amount, even with a modest income. These savings will provide security and peace of mind as you enter your 70s and beyond, giving you the freedom to live without the constant worry of financial strain. As we move into our golden years, financial security becomes even more crucial. Many people wonder, how can I continue to live comfortably when my pension isn't enough? The reality is that living frugally during the earlier years, particularly between the ages of 50 and 60, can provide peace of mind later in life. The key is to plan your spending wisely and be disciplined about saving. If you start putting aside money, even modest amounts, while you're still working, those savings can compound over time, providing you with a cushion to rely on once you're in your 70s or beyond. A useful strategy is to be mindful of your choices when you shop. Look for ways to cut back on unnecessary expenses. For instance, skip the pricey, indulgent parties or events that don't add value to your life. Instead, prioritize low-cost experiences that bring you joy and fulfillment. By avoiding wasteful spending and focusing on what's important, you can accumulate savings that will give you the freedom to live without constant worry. The truth is, security in life doesn't just happen. It's something you create for yourself. When you're older, having some financial security in place helps you feel confident and free. And let's be honest, there's nothing quite like the peace of mind that comes with knowing your money is working for you, not the other way around. This is the power of living within your means. If you're able to save just a little each month, over time, it will add up, allowing you to focus on enjoying life without the stress of constantly worrying about your next paycheck. As we age, our priorities tend to shift. When we were younger, we were often driven by the idea of doing everything for everyone. We thought that by being sincere and giving, we could create meaningful, reciprocal relationships. But as we grow older and gain more experience, we come to realize that not everyone deserves our energy. We learn the hard way that it's not about giving endlessly without regard for our well-being. Now, we understand that our time and energy are limited, and we should reserve them for the people and activities that truly matter. This brings me to a story I once heard about Fuang Lin, a woman who worked at a state-owned enterprise. She was incredibly generous with her time and energy, always the first to offer help, and going out of her way to support her colleagues. Once, at a company gathering, she rushed to pay the bill before anyone had a chance to react. She didn't want the group to wait too long. She hurried off, leaving behind a sense of duty in her heart. But when she returned to the room, she found that no one was even paying attention to her absence. It was raining heavily that day, and as she made her way home alone, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next day, she hoped that someone, just one person, would ask if she had made it home safely. But when she walked into the office, the only thing her colleagues cared about was whether she had brought any pastries with her. That moment made Fuang Lin realize that her dedication and sincerity weren't being appreciated. What she had failed to recognize earlier was that her boundless enthusiasm and energy had been taken for granted. The emotional toll of constantly giving without receiving was starting to show. Over time, she learned that there's a limit to how much we can give and that not everyone in our lives is deserving of our energy. As we age, we become more selective about where we invest our time and efforts. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. As we grow older, we start to realize that one of the most important life lessons is understanding who truly deserves our time and energy. When we were younger, we might have been more willing to give our all to everyone, believing that sincerity and dedication would be met with the same. But life has a way of teaching us that not everyone is worthy of such devotion. A mature adult understands that not everyone will reciprocate your kindness, and that's okay. The key is learning when to pull back and set boundaries. A blogger recently shared how she decided to cut ties with some old friends who, over time, had become more demanding and less appreciative. She had always been there for them, whether it was lending money for a house deposit or caring for a friend's mother in the hospital. But over time, her efforts were met with indifference. When she faced struggles of her own, her friends didn't offer any emotional support. Instead, they remained distant, even cold. It was at this point that she realized her dedication wasn't valued. Sometimes, the most mature decision is to stop giving everything to people who don't reciprocate. Don't waste your emotional energy on those who take but never give back. If you find yourself in such a situation, it's important to recognize the value of stepping away and protecting your emotional health. A truly healthy relationship isn't about constantly giving everything you have to others. It's about mutual respect, understanding, and effort from both sides. Sociologist Homans emphasized that the essence of a good relationship is built on emotional exchange, mutual dedication, and respect. As we grow older, it's important to cultivate relationships that are truly reciprocal. So, be a little colder, and a little slower to invest in people who haven't proven themselves worthy of your time and affection. And as for being a bit slow, it's also about learning to let go of the pressure to meet everyone's expectations. The famous German philosopher Kant once said that the greatest weakness of humans is caring too much about what others think of them. So many of us spend years, maybe even decades, trying to please others, seeking their approval, and worrying about how we're perceived. But in doing so, we rob ourselves of peace of mind. In the book The Art of Thinking Clearly, author Rolf Dobelli recounts the story of a doctor who worked under a difficult professor. The professor constantly criticized his assistants, leading many to quit or lose their confidence. But one assistant stood out. He never allowed the harsh words to affect him. After work, he would go out with friends, enjoy his time, and come back the next day with renewed energy. In the end, he became the hospital's most skilled surgeon and later its director. His secret? He didn't allow negative energy to linger in his mind. He learned to let go of unnecessary worries and focus on what mattered. The moral here is clear. Don't let the negative energy of others consume you. It's okay to be slow. Slow to give too much, slow to care about the wrong people, and slow to let negative influences affect your peace of mind. The more we practice this, the more we'll find that our lives become more focused, more fulfilling, and more in tune with the people and things that truly matter. In life, we encounter many things that don't go as planned, but most of the things that hurt us are not the events themselves, but how we perceive them. People who are too sensitive always pay attention to every word and action of others, causing themselves to live in anxiety. A user on social media shared his experience and received empathy from many people. As we age, maintaining good relationships with our children, grandchildren, and loved ones becomes an increasingly important aspect of our well-being. But as we reach our 70s, there's an undeniable truth. The ability to maintain these connections often requires more than just time and affection, it requires money. There's an old saying that goes, "A lamb with a demon, a crow feeding its mother," which implies that filial piety can be a form of manipulation, one that entices parents or elderly relatives into providing for younger generations. While this might sound harsh, it touches on a fundamental truth about family dynamics, especially as we grow older. Many parents who have spent their lives raising children may find themselves in a situation where, in their later years, they lack the financial resources to truly maintain their independence or provide for their emotional needs. It's easy for children who live far away to send a call or a quick visit as a sign of filial piety. But what happens when parents truly need assistance? What happens when there's no money left to rely on? Take, for example, the story of two neighboring families. In one home, Mr. Allen, a retired worker, was able to provide his 5-year-old grandson with a $200 red envelope during the holiday season. Meanwhile, Mr. Carter, a farmer living on a much tighter budget, could only afford to give his grandson $50. The difference in the amount of money available didn't just affect the gift. It reflected the emotional gap that money can create between families. Children, especially young ones, often notice the disparity, and while they may not understand the intricacies of finances, they understand who has more to give. For many families, financial stability makes all the difference. Children who don't have to worry about their parents' well-being are better able to show love and care. And elderly parents who have a financial cushion can rest easier, knowing they won't become a burden on their children or grandchildren. Without that cushion, however, there's a sense of insecurity that lingers, one that affects relationships in ways we often don't realize. There are also practical considerations, such as the need for caregivers. While some might suggest that children should take on this responsibility, especially daughters-in-law, the reality is that caregiving can be an exhausting and expensive endeavor. Hiring a caregiver can provide peace of mind not just for the elderly person, but for their entire family. Caregivers are compensated for their time and work, which can alleviate some of the emotional stress of caregiving. But this cost can add up quickly, as one neighbor, Mr. Liu, discovered after the passing of his father. His mother was bedridden, and her care cost him over $10,000 a year, an amount that surpassed his income. In these cases, having savings can make a huge difference in the quality of life for both the elderly and their families. As we age, our health becomes one of the most pressing concerns. At 70, many of us transition from being active and independent to needing more support. Medical costs rise, and illnesses become more frequent. For example, my mother, who once danced and traveled regularly, found herself struggling with leg pain and frequent coughs after turning 70. Medical care is expensive, and without sufficient savings, it's easy to find oneself in a difficult position. In 2021, life expectancy in the U.S. was 77.3 years. But even with a longer life expectancy, health declines with age, and maintaining good health requires not just effort, but money. Healthcare costs are an unavoidable part of life after 70, and for many seniors, the savings accumulated during their working years are crucial for maintaining their independence and confidence. A writer once said, "Money brings security and confidence." If you're not worrying about how to pay for medical bills or hire a caregiver, it's much easier to live a peaceful, fulfilling life. But the most important thing to keep in mind is this: living frugally is essential in your later years. If you want to retire with peace of mind, start thinking about your savings early. Cut back on unnecessary expenses, avoid spending too much on luxury items, and look for opportunities to save. Even small adjustments, like skipping expensive dinners or opting for simpler vacations, can add up over time. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. For those in their 50s and 60s, it's still possible to save for the future. Start by putting away a portion of your income each month, and be mindful of your purchases. Those who can save a little during these years will find that it provides peace of mind when they turn 70 and beyond. But financial security is just part of the equation. After all, money can't buy everything. Relationships are another crucial factor in aging gracefully. As we get older, we need to be mindful of who we give our time and energy to. We've all been there, giving our best to people who don't appreciate us or don't reciprocate. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that sincerity and effort will be returned with gratitude. But that's not always the case. A blogger shared a story about how she used to lend money to friends without hesitation, whether it was a loan for a house deposit or taking care of a sick relative. She gave her all, believing that her kindness would be appreciated. But over time, she found that her friends took her efforts for granted, never acknowledging the help she gave, and even ignoring her when she needed support. At that point, she realized the importance of setting boundaries, of not overextending herself for people who weren't willing to give back. This is a lesson many of us learn the hard way. Not everyone deserves your unwavering dedication. If your sincerity isn't reciprocated, it's important to know when to step back and protect your energy. As one sociologist put it, relationships are built on mutual respect and emotional exchange. When that balance is broken, it's okay to let go. In the second half of life, it's important to be slow, to take your time and not rush through things. We often get caught up in overthinking and worrying about how others perceive us. But as the German philosopher Kant once said, the biggest weakness of humans is caring too much about how others perceive them. Learning to let go of unnecessary concerns and not let other people's opinions affect us is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves in our later years. As the saying goes, not everyone can be sensitive and care about others' feelings all the time. In the second half of life, it's okay to be a little more distant, a little more slow to react, and a little more forgetful. It's not about being heartless, it's about protecting yourself from unnecessary emotional burdens. By living this way, we can free ourselves from the constant emotional turmoil that often accompanies aging. We can focus on the things that truly matter: our health, our family, and our sense of peace. Thank you for watching. I hope this video has given you valuable insights into navigating relationships and financial dynamics in your later years. From emotional awareness to setting boundaries, and understanding how financial security can enhance your well-being, we've covered a lot today. So, what have you learned so far? I'd love to hear from you. Please share one key takeaway from this video that you plan to bring into practice in your own life. Let's start a conversation in the comments below. If you like this video, don't forget to leave your comment, like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content focused on living your best life at any age. Remember, a truly healthy relationship isn't about constantly giving. It's about mutual respect, understanding, and effort from both sides. Take your time, set boundaries, and prioritize your peace of mind. See you in the next video.